Hello, Mishpacha, it's Courtney, America's Jewish mother. Welcome back to my channel. I am here today with a book haul, and I think this will be the last book haul of the year for me. And I know it's only May, but these book hauls have gotten out of control, and I think I've already bought something like 40 or so books this year, and it's getting out of hand, quite frankly, because I can't reduce my physical TBR if I keep bringing more books into it. So yeah, I think I'm just gonna put a cap on it right here. Now I assume Lindsay of Lindsay's Book Life and I will still do our holiday book exchange whenever Hanukkah is late in the year, and you know, I may bring in another stray book or two here and there, but this is going to be like a hard cap for this is my last actual official book haul of 2021, because yeah, again, I can't reduce my physical TBR if I keep bringing more books in. So as it is, I think my physical TBR is somewhere around 110 or 109 books, and my goal for last year was to get it under 100, and so I obviously want to get it back down under 100 and keep it there and get it even a little bit more reduced than that. So the way I'm going to do that is to stop bringing books into my library, except for the ones I'm about to show you. So also FYI, this is going to be like a very Jewish book haul. I think most of these books are either written by Jewish authors or about Jewish authors. Not all of them, but most of them. Including the first one, which is Cynthia Ozick's new book, Antiquities. And I actually have already read this book. I was so excited to have it that I just went ahead and read it. And once I got started, I got sucked into the story, and I put everything else on hold while I read this in a day and a half. And this it says a story on the cover, and I think that's probably accurate. This is novella length. I think it clocks in somewhere between 30,000 and 35,000 words, so it's not long enough to be a novel. Possibly you would consider it a long short story, but I'm going to go with novella. So, yeah, and I will talk about this in greater detail and what I liked about it when I wrap it up in my Friday Reads video later this week. But for now, I will just give you an overview of what it is about. So this book centers on Lloyd Wilkinson Petrie, who is an elderly man who, when the story opens, is living in what used to be a boys' academy in New England, where he was once a pupil many years ago. And when the story opens, we're in the year, 1949. So Petrie is thinking back over the events of his life. He's thinking a lot about his time at the Boys Academy when he was a student there, and he's thinking about another student that he knew there that he was friends with, named Ben Zion Elephantine, or Elephantine. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. And he's also thinking about his father and his mother and their relationship with one another. And so this story is told as a because he's trying to write a history, or he's trying to write his own sort of memories of the academy to add to the history of the academy. And so it's written almost like diary style. But yeah, and so it's very reflective. It's a very detailed character study of the central character of Lloyd Wilkinson Petrie, and you learn a lot about his life and things that have happened to him, and you know, maybe not everything is quite as it seems at the very beginning as you get farther in. So yeah, I'll just leave it at that for right now. But suffice to say, I really liked this book, and I would certainly recommend it. But I'll talk more about it in my Friday Reads video. So that was Cynthia Ozick's Antiquities. I also bought a copy of Anzia Yezierska's short story collection, Hungry Hearts, which is a book that I have read previously, but I did not own a copy of it, and I thought, that's ridiculous. I should clearly own a copy of this. So this is probably Yezierska's best known work after her novel Bread Givers. So as I said, this was a short story collection, I think this was originally published somewhere around 1920, and Yezierska was a Polish Jewish immigrant to the United States, who wrote about her life and experiences, and also the experiences of women immigrants that she knew, and that is what makes up the bulk of the stories in this collection. So yes, Hungry Hearts. I guess it's also the Hall of Short Stories, which I didn't even realize till right now. I also called Jiří Weil's collection of short stories, Mendelssohn is on the Roof. So Jiří Weil was a Jewish Czech author. Let's see if it says anything about him on the flap. Yes, he was born in 1900 in Prague and was one of the best-known writers in Central Europe in the 1930s and immediate post-war years. Weil had been a militant communist in his youth, but was later expelled from the party after having served Moscow as a member of the Czech section of the Comintern. In 1942, he escaped transportation to the death camps by faking his own death. Well, that's exciting. Now I'm like, let me go find a biography of Jiří Weil so I can figure out how he did that. He remained in hiding for the rest of the war, and his novels Mendelssohn is on the Roof and Life of the Star are based on these experiences. Weil died in 1959. I thought this was a short story collection. Okay, I guess it's not. Just kidding. It's a novel. So, yeah. So this says that an SS officer is ordered to remove the statue of Jewish composer Mendelssohn from the roof of the Prague Academy of Music before an official concert. Unsure which of these statues is Mendelssohn, he tells his men to remove the statue with the biggest nose because racism. Unfortunately, that turns out to be the statue of Wagner instead. So yeah, definitely looking forward to reading this, hopefully over the summer months. So that's Jiří Weil. I then got a copy of Lillian Hellman's The Little Foxes. This is a play that I've mentioned a couple of times in conjunction with Hellman's prequel to this play, Another Part of the Forest, which I read last month and liked. So this is the more famous play that was made into a movie starring Bette Davis and some other folks back in the, I'm going to say 40s. If that's not right, I'll put whatever the date is here. But yeah, so this is about Regina Giddens. She was Giddens, now she's Hubbard. So picture a charming home in the South. Into this peaceful scene put the prosperous, despotic Hubbard family, each trying to outwit the other. Yeah, etc., etc. I mean, like, there's a long, drawn-out, but that's, like, basically the gist of it, right? Is, like, it's this family who has done well for themselves financially, but they're all trying to kind of outmaneuver and overpower the other ones for various reasons, so more family drama. So definitely looking forward to reading this, again, hopefully over the summer months, followed by a watching of the Little Foxes movie with Bette Davis, which I don't actually think I've ever seen, so... Yes, Lillian Hellman, Little Foxes. Also Jewish, so I'm 4 for 4 on Jewish writers, and I'm about to be 5 for 5, because the next book is Isaac Babel's collected stories. Isaac Babel was a Russian Jewish writer, or was he Ukrainian? Let's see. This says, throughout his life, Isaac Babel was torn by opposing forces, by the desire both to remain faithful to his Jewish roots and yet to be free of them. This duality of vision infuses his work with a powerful energy, which affirms his Russian Jewish childhood to the relatively non-Jewish world of his collection of short stories entitled Red Cavalry, etc., etc. So yeah, Russian Jewish writer. He was born in Odessa in 1894, and these stories are translated by David Macduff, which I read a translation before, David Macduff's of Crime and Punishment, and I really liked that, so I'm glad to have Macduff as the translator on these stories. And I read Babel first in undergrad, so I'm definitely looking forward to revisiting some of his stories and reading more from him that I haven't read yet, so Isaac Babel. Okay, finally, a non-Jewish writer. So, I also got a copy of Evie Shockley's poetry collection, The New Black. I first read this in 2019. It was, in fact, my favorite poetry collection of 2019. And these poems are all about the African American experience. They're very inventive in terms of their form. I don't think any of the poems takes the same form structurally as any of the other ones, which I found quite, well, not only fascinating, but I found it, like, exciting as I was reading the collection. I was like, ooh, what is she gonna do next? So that was fun, and yeah, and I think it's really interesting, especially in terms of thinking about African American history and African American literature, because she makes a lot of references to works and figures in here who I was familiar with, but I did have to look up a few that I was unfamiliar with. So also taught me some things I didn't already know about. So I'm happy to have a copy of Evie Shockley's The New Black on my shelves. Okay, I also got a biography of Tallulah Bankhead by David Bret. This is called Tallulah Bankhead, A Scandalous Life. Now last summer I actually read Tallulah Bankhead's autobiography, which was fine, but I enjoyed reading her words. Like, it was very authentically her voice, but I feel like because she wrote it herself, she, sort of obscures some things that happened and, doesn't really give you a full picture of who she was. So I thought I would buy a biography of her and see if I sort of get some pieces filled in that were missing from the autobiography. So hoping to read this over the summer as well. But yeah, so it says Marlene Dietrich called her the most immoral woman who ever lived. Cecil Beaton described her as a wicked archangel, but no one better summed up this fascinating woman than Tallulah herself, an endless succession of anecdotes and one-liners peppered with expletives that became her trademark. So yeah, she was, in case you don't know who Tallulah Bankhead was, she was a very well-known and renowned, mainly theater, like stage actress in the 1940s and 50s. She did do a few TV spots, and she was in a couple of movies, and her most famous one was Lifeboat. But yeah, like, she's sort of a lesser known figure today, even though I feel like she's like kind of a gay icon to some segments of the gay community, but not all. So yeah, looking forward to reading more about Tallulah Bankhead. I then bought another biography. This one is of Lillian Hellman. So it's called A Difficult Woman, The Challenging Life and Times of Lillian Hellman. And I don't really know that much about Lillian Hellman's actual life, but I know that she was Jewish, and I think she had a sort of cantankerous relationship to her Jewish identity, from what I understand. And I'm happy to read a book about a difficult woman. Yeah, give me a book about some woman standing up to authority and, challenging the norms and things like that. And I'm right there, and I'm entertained, just like Tallulah Bankhead. So, yeah, looking forward to reading this at some point, maybe later this year. And then the last book that I hauled, I definitely want to get to this year, but I'm not exactly sure when I'll fit it in because it's very hefty. It's a hefty tome. And it is Louis Menand's new book, The Free World, Art and Thought in the Cold War. Now, Louis Menand wrote The Metaphysical Club, which I loved, which was about the 4 major American pragmatist figures: Charles Sanders Peirce, William James, John Dewey, and Oliver Wendell Holmes Jr. Now, I loved that book. It's on my list of books that I want to reread next year. And so when I heard that Menand was coming out with a new book, obviously I had to go get it. So even though this is not about the pragmatists, I'm sure it will still be engaging and educational in the same way that the Metaphysical Club was. So this is about, basically it's kind of about how our relationship to thought changes during the Cold War period. So this says Louis Menand analyzes the economic, demographic, and technological forces that drove social and cultural change as he introduces us to the personalities at the center of this transformation. And then it has a list of like 30 people at least. And Menand shows how artists and thinkers in other countries, from Simone de Beauvoir, Claude Levi-Strauss, and Jacques Derrida, to John Lennon and Jean-Luc Godard, exerted a powerful influence on post-war art and thought. It was a time when people cared, a time when painting mattered, movies mattered, and poetry mattered. Yes, poetry. And when ideas like liberty and authenticity were promoted and transformed. It was an exciting period of creative innovation and intellectual debate, and it gave birth to the United States we know today. So, yeah, I don't know if that was a very, like, I don't know how useful of a summation that was, because basically I was like, oh, Louis Menand has a new book. Well, I'm buying it. I don't even care what it's about. So, but I will let you know once I have finished it, whenever that happens. So yeah, that's everything that I am hauling in my last book haul of 2021. So let me just try to hold up the big pile here, which is going to be hard because I have these two fairly hefty books on the bottom. So, all right, here we go. Okay. Whew, that last one is heavy. And I think it's something like 800 pages long, if I'm not mistaken. So definitely have to figure out the timing when I'm going to get to the free world. But I definitely want to read it this year. Okay, boom. All right. So that's everything I hauled. If you have thoughts about any of these books, I would love to hear that. Please feel free to let me know that down in the comments below. Thank you for watching this. I hope everyone is staying healthy and well. I hope you're doing good reading whatever you're reading. And until next time, would it kill you to call you mother?